The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to The Timeline, a Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam. How you doing, Sam?
What is up? I am good. Strange times in Suns land. As always, got to make sense of the good and the bad, because on the one hand, they whooped the Lakers' ass last night. We're recording Tuesday night, not immediately after that game, because that game ended super, super late for me here on the East Coast. But just a really fun time watching them play the Lakers on Monday night and win that game. Of course, on the other hand, we are still waiting for a news update on Devin Booker, who left that game after playing for about 10, 15 minutes. So here we are. Where do you want to start with that? Do you want to start with how the team is doing, or some of the injury updates that we're still waiting on here?
Let's at least cover a little bit on Devin Booker first, because it was what they're saying now is something with his groin. As far as we got, is groin soreness seems to be the only thing they're saying so far. It was, according to Jordan Ott, on the layup that Devin Booker had on Jake LaRavia, I believe, where they kind of crashed into each other. I don't believe it was a contact injury. It seems to be, the implication is more that it's more of some sort of tissue injury or strain, which is something that Devin Booker's had before, in a groin injury in the past that's kept him out for weeks at times. So we don't really know. I do think having a conversation about how the team has played without Devin Booker is going to be part of this. For those who have figured it out already, this is going to be a stats episode, one where Sam and I have gathered stats and are going to send them at each other here and discuss the team from those perspectives. But, it really sucks. Devin Booker has been struggling lately, and he was finally playing a team in the Lakers who had no perimeter defense, and DeAndre Ayton, who's playing terribly as a center, and it was like, oh, this could be his get-back game. He started out pretty well in that game, too. This could be the game where he actually scores, because he's no longer going to be hounded by some of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA like he has been for the last few weeks. And then, of course, he's injured now. And, yeah, we'll find out soon about, some sort of estimate about how long he's going to be out. They don't play again until Friday. I don't think he's going to play that game, if I had to guess.
No.
But,
of course.
We'll figure out the implication of what it could look like when we find out.
Yeah, so we just don't know yet. I'm sure we're going to get an update pretty soon, and so this maybe opening segment from us will look a little bit silly by tomorrow if they're saying, hey, he's out 3-4 weeks. We just don't know. I will say real quick, we'll get to Booker more in a bit. On the Lakers, though, do you feel like the Suns exposed the Lakers last night?
JJ Redick did.
What did JJ say? I'm not
JJ
sure.
Redick said if you don't play hard against this team, they will expose you.
Oh, is that literally what he said? I'm glad
That's what he said.
Word. That I did not see what JJ said. I think look, this Lakers team is interesting because they're still the second seed in the Western Conference.
It doesn't make
after
sense.
losing to the Suns, they're 15-5.
They were on the second night of a back-to-back. Just no excuse making for them, but saying it,
doesn't count.
Yeah.
They look. They're 15-5, but they're 14th in the league, 14th in the NBA in net rating. They're still a good team, regardless. But to your point, they're 17th in defensive rating. They don't have a whole lot in the way of defensive personnel. Mm-hmm. I think DeAndre has actually been pretty good this season.
Not in the on-off stats, but yeah.
Has he not? I guess I don't know the
They're
on-off
better without
stats.
him.
I only know
they're better without him on the floor, which is no surprise
now, that's
to anyone
interesting. That's interesting to me too. Does that mean like they're better with Jackson Hayes on the floor, or like if they go small? I think that's what it means.
Entirely? Yeah,
that's interesting. Okay,
I mean Jackson Hayes was pretty good last year.
Yeah, I mean Luka scores a lot of points but sucks on defense. Austin Reeves scores a lot of points but sucks on defense. LeBron looks old. Mm-hmm. I mean, to quote Dylan Brooks,
he wasn't on the second night of a back-to-back. He didn't play the first one.
To quote Dylan Brooks from 4 years ago when he was on the Grizzlies, he's old. That was 4 years ago. Dylan Brooks 4 years ago said, I'm not afraid of him. He's old. And now he's really old. So, I think the Lakers are still a good team and are going to be somewhere in the upper echelon of the Western Conference standings, probably, I guess. But Yeah, I look forward to playing that team a few more times this year. That's a fun matchup for us, I think. And we really can expose them kind of with what some of our strengths as a team are this year when it comes to motor and creating extra possessions.
It must have felt good for Dylan Brooks, right? Because not only did he beat the LeBron team, he did it on the back of his scoring, which has been incredible. We're going to talk more about him later. I tease it for one of my stats here. But, like for me, it was kind of interesting approaching this game from the opposite side of that sort of LeBron versus Dylan Brooks thing that's happened over the last few years where, the famous he poked the bear thing. Like watching that when you were not rooting for the team that Dylan Brooks is on, you just kind of watch it and go, what is he doing? Why is he being such an idiot? And now, with him on the Suns, you watch it from the perspective of, yeah, hell yeah, Dylan Brooks, really show that old man, show what he's doing now. And
just being a troll.
Yeah.
And getting the Lakers fans animated in the game, booing him as Luka turns it over for literally the 5th time in a quarter, getting pickpocketed by Jamari Bouye. And I mean, it was just a really fun game. Luka with 9 turnovers, beautiful performance. So yeah,
let's talk about the team without Booker real quick. And I know we're gonna go teaser for one of the stats that Sam and I talked about ahead of time. We're gonna talk about some net rating stats with some of these players. But before we even get to that, the next game is against the Houston Rockets. Unfortunate, I think, that Devin Booker probably won't be in that one. Then we have, these are all at Houston, at Minnesota. Then we have what is the beginning of the Cup games, which is at OKC. So the Suns are playing 3 of the best defenses in the NBA back to back to back without Devin Booker. And then, of course, Golden State are the next 2 games. But there's going to be another game scheduled after that OKC game, whether they advance in the Cup or they play other teams that lose in the Cup, I guess, is the other options there. How are you feeling about what this team could potentially be? The entire identity of the team kind of changes. I guess it doesn't.
Sure.
Because they are sort of a defensive team regardless.
They do feel like that.
But they got to lean really hard into the defense right now and going into these games.
I mean, it sort of just underscores the idea that, like, you look at the talent alone on paper on this team, and they just shouldn't be 13-9 in the first place. To me, I still feel that way. Like, I've updated my priors about some of these guys, no doubt. But I look at the talent on paper, and I'm like, I don't know. This is not really a 13-9 team in the West beating good teams, is it? And yet here they are, and so I know not to doubt them now. And I know they're going to be the underdogs in every game they play without Devin Booker, but through the power of friendship, I do believe that, they can pull off some more wins. I think they just can. And I said yesterday when Booker went down, again, we're going to get into the net rating stuff because that stuff's crazy. But, like, it is an interesting phenomenon, not to go full Ewing theory, but it is an interesting phenomenon when you're playing teams suddenly without your star player and their defense is just thrown off because they're like, oh, our entire game plan was to load up against your star player and then, like, let the role players try to beat us. And now we don't really know what to do. I guess we're just going to play you straight up one-on-one. And, okay, there's Colin Gillespie going off for 5 pull-up threes.
Yes.
There's Dylan Brooks cooking in the mid-range. And,
exactly.
And it's just like...
What happens when they point that defensive attention at those 2 guys instead is an interesting question.
Well, will they? That's going to be the next interesting... Like, is Colin Gillespie going to start getting doubled for the first time in his career? And if so, that's a crazy proposition given that he was fighting for his NBA life 6 months ago.
Well, because Mike Budenholzer was an idiot, but yes.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the net rating stats because I think that's relevant to this conversation. So for those who don't know, I like to think there's a new listener every episode. It's probably not true, but
no, there probably is.
Every 10 or so episodes, Sam and I will get together and come up with a list of stats that we do not share ahead of time. The reason we both know there is net ratings is because we had a feeling that both of us looked at these stats because they're just so interesting and relevant to what's happening with the Suns right now. And then we throw those stats at each other back to back and reveal them to each other here on the podcast and then try to use that as the lens to discuss how the team has been playing lately. 10 games or so are good points for us to sort of do these episodes because it gives us an opportunity to see how the team has changed over the course of the season. Now we're 22 games in. We did this after the first 10 games, and of course now we're 12 games later talking about the team through that. I will let you go first. I know I had a similar stat, and I want to hear how you are going to present these specific net rating stats as relevant to what this team looks like going forward.
I haven't really thought about how I was going to present these. I just have a bunch of numbers on a Google Doc.
Yeah.
So with no context around them, it just is a player and then like a name and then a number.
Yeah.
So here goes. I haven't really thought about how I'm going to say it.
We'll provide the context, yeah.
These are Cleaning the Glass numbers. I don't know where you got your net ratings from, but I am a Cleaning the Glass subscriber, and basically it's the on-off numbers for everyone on the team. I guess, should I start with the good or the bad?
Let's do both. You go ahead, wherever you want.
I guess I'll start a little bit with the bad. So I don't want to kick a guy while he's down, because Devin Booker, obviously we hope he gets better. And I hope he's had to deal with either groin or hamstring issues when you talk about these tissue issues in most seasons of his career.
Yeah.
And so, I hope this is only a couple of weeks and not going to be something that holds him out into, say, mid-January. But the truth is that Devin Booker was really struggling for the last 10 games or so. And there is an element of he gets the benefit of the doubt because he is the Suns' star player. And, guys go through cold spells. And then if it's Devin Booker, you should trust him to be able to shoot himself out of that. That's true. But also, he was quite bad for 7 or 8 games. And I don't think, personally, this is where I get into, kind of my subjective opinion about it, but I don't think just in a way of, he's getting doubled and it's just because he's getting doubled, which is true. He is getting doubled, but every star player sees doubles, Every star team or every star player on every team in the league goes through these difficult bouts of heavy defensive attention, and they don't shoot the percentages that Devin Booker was shooting in November. And so from a net rating perspective, we're now at a point where, according to Cleaning the Glass, the Suns are 5.5 points per 100 possessions worse with Devin Booker on the floor. The craziest part to me is that traditionally you would think, oh, well, that's defense, right? Like Devin Booker, he's carrying their offense, and then the defense collapses. That's actually not what's happening with him this year. The defense is flat. We've talked about how he's pretty good on defense this year, and the defense, the team numbers are flat when he's on or off the floor. The offense is 6 points worse with Devin Booker on the floor.
His defense has been pretty good. I'll say it again. There's 1 or 2 bad highlights a game for him, but the defense overall, pretty solid this season.
So I guess that's where I would start, because, I think it's one thing for, we've never had this idea in our head that Booker is, obviously he's a really good player and he's a superstar player or whatever, but, there's never been this idea in our head that he's Jokic or he's Giannis or he's a couple of these guys who just historically in the league, it's a given that if they're on the floor, you're going to be a plus 20 all the time, and then you collapse when they're off the floor. To be entirely honest, Booker has just never had that level of net rating impact in his career. He's a really, really, really talented offensive player. He kind of lifts all boats with his playmaking. We've talked about how much his playmaking has improved throughout the years. But he just, he doesn't have Jokic level impact, and that's okay. This is different, though, and for the life of me, I can't figure out exactly why this is happening.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear your theories, or at what point we have to be sincerely worried about this.
I think, okay, let's start one place. The Cleaning the Glass stats are related to the players that play on your team. Meaning, worse with him on the floor also means that the players that are playing on the bench are playing really well. And we're going to talk about them, but guys like Colin Gillespie, Jordan Goodwin, Oso Ighodaro, players are having a really positive impact overall on the team, are going to impact that as well. So whenever he's off the floor, if those guys are in and playing really well, that's going to have a positive impact. But if you just think about the overall net rating stat, so per 100 possessions, how are the Suns playing when Devin Booker's on the floor? Is it positive or negative? When he's on the floor, it's actually minus 1.9 in the last 10 games with Devin Booker on the floor. So overall net rating, they're still getting outscored without Devin Booker on the floor. And I say that to say that
with Devin Booker on the floor.
With Devin Booker on the floor. I say that to say that it's possible to have a negative rating in the cleaning the glass on-off stats and a positive net rating overall, meaning you're still outscoring teams, but they play even better when you're on the floor. Example, Jalen Green last year with the Houston Rockets. As a player who did that. Very good team, better with him off the floor. I got one stat here. 24% from three in the last 10 games. Sometimes, the decision-making is actually not the worst. I think he is hesitating, and I think he's struggled to get his mid-range off in a weird way, which is sort of out of normal for him. But he's missing a lot of open threes, and he's missing some wide-open threes. And that, to me, is very indicative of how he's been playing lately, because if you're getting good shots, which to start the season he wasn't, and he was still hitting shots. If you're getting good shots and you're missing the good shots, there's something weird there. Now him not having any really noticeable injury point in the game yesterday where you're like, oh, Devin Booker's down, something happened, he's hurt. And then leaving the game and sort of having groin soreness, it is tough for me not to go, was he playing through something in the last few games that we just didn't know about? Which he's done before. That's happened in the past where you find out about an injury later with him and you see a slump and it actually lines up with that. It could not be that because he didn't play very well all of last season either. There were stretches where he didn't play very, very well. But at this point, I think we have a pretty clear picture of the kind of three-point shooter he is. And it's not a 24% from three-point shooter. It's a 35% from three-point shooter. Mm-hmm. And I think
never more.
Yeah, and never more than that, and never really less. That's just who he is. Yeah,
he's topped out at 37 in his career, and he's bottomed out at 33. He's been a remarkably consistently average 3-point shooter who gets on hot spells, and when he's in the midst of a hot streak, he's up there with anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And he shoots. Yeah, sure, he shoots hard ones.
Yeah,
but it's just never been the backbone of his scoring, and we know that about the guy after 10 years in the league.
All I know is that if there's something up with him right now and he's playing through an injury that was impacting it and that led to another injury or something, we can't do that with him. We can't do that with him. You keep him safe, keep him good. Because you saw how good they could be when Devin Booker was good for the first 10 games of the season. We started that podcast talking about how great he was and how great they were playing. And he was shooting 50% from three. And, we need him to be healthy for this team to be at their best, regardless of what those stats say right now. That's just what it is, and he needs to play better. Now, if it has nothing to do with injuries, then it's a little concerning, but, it is a 10-game stretch. We can see how it could progress over the course of the season. I would say that there is signs for things that could potentially be alarming, but I won't say that there's an alarm that needs to be pressed until we see it over a longer stretch of time.
To contrast this, I'll talk about how good some of these guys have been as well, unless you have anything else to say about Booker in particular.
I think it's good. We'll talk more about him, too, when we find out about his injury timeline and, of course, when he comes back to play.
Who's got, in your opinion... Well, actually, I guess it depends on how many minutes I'm willing to do. Among guys who've played, a good amount on the Suns this year, 200
rotation
minutes.
Players, yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a guy who's arguably a rotation player in here. I'll just tell you in a second. But among guys who've played 200 minutes, who has the best plus-minus differential or on-off differential per
It's got to be
class?
Oso Iguodala, right?
No.
Really?
No, it's definitely not Oso.
Oso's
no.
Jordan Goodwin.
Oso's fourth. Colin Gillespie is sixth. Jordan Goodwin is first.
Okay, that makes sense.
He's a plus 12 points per 100 possessions when Jordan Goodwin's on the floor. The guy who I was technically is this guy first? Isaiah Livers, actually.
Right.
Has the best. But that even more so points to your idea of man, the bench is just kicking ass.
Yeah, they really are.
And so it's important for us to note that when those guys are playing, they're playing lesser competition too. A guy like Isaiah Livers is just going up against worse players sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But Jordan Goodwin, he's been starting lineup times, and he's been, going toe-to-toe against some really good players. And for them to be a plus 12 with Jordan Goodwin on the floor, and then the other guy, Ryan Dunn, is a plus 8 when he's on the floor versus off the floor. They are truly leading the team to success through this identity of hustle and grit and grind. Like, those guys are the pure embodiment of that hustle, and they're at the top of this stat. That's really remarkable to me. The offensive rebounding skyrockets when those guys are on the floor. The defensive rebounding actually skyrockets when Jordan Goodwin's on the floor too. Their rebounding numbers as a team when Jordan Goodwin is on the floor, when you have a 6'3" guy who basically it's like having another power forward on the floor, and then you have an actual power forward who you're playing next to him as well in Ryan Dunn or whoever. Like, the amount of extra possessions that they're able to create is crazy. I just wouldn't think at the beginning of the season, this is why it's all still so confusing to me. I just didn't think that the spacing was there. I didn't think that there was any viable way to make the offensive spacing work for those guys. And yet here we are. The offense is 8 points better with Jordan Goodwin on the floor this year. That's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. The offense is 5 points better with Ryan Dunn on the floor. This was a complete zero in college.
These are all Jordan Ott stats.
These are Jordan Ott stats for sure.
Yeah.
They're credit to those guys too for working on their games, but they're Jordan Ott stats. They really are. If you want to start the Coach of the Year narrative for Jordan Ott, and I think you were posting the betting odds on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah, well, it would start now, right? With Devin Booker out, they'd have to win some big games.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it really starts now. If they continue winning some big games and Devin Booker misses a few weeks, luckily we're probably getting Grayson Allen back on Friday at least, so that'll soften the blow a little bit. But it's still not like having Devin Booker. So if they win some of these games, those numbers are going to shoot up. Who's number one in Coach of the Year odds right now? Is it Spoelstra?
Well, Jordan Ott was just nominated for Coach of the Month, and Mark Dagnall won. So I don't know if they're just going to give it to the guy that wins 74 games or whatever, but
yeah, they might.
They don't usually. So it's usually like expectations versus what actually happens is the guy who wins. And
I think it's
not
a
my
little bit
favorite
different
way to do the award anyway. But yeah,
with OKC, usually the expectations, especially coming off a championship, are that you just don't take the regular season seriously and you coast to like 55 wins. And so if Dagnall and the Thunder win 70 games this year, he will have a case in that award. He will be a player just from a narrative perspective. He will be competing for that award.
I've spent years chasing great coffee, and I finally found a roaster worth sharing, Alchemy Roast. Before I say anything else, you can get it shipped to you at alchemyroaster.com and use the promo code Timeline for 10% off today. Now let me tell you why it's worth it. Alchemy Roast is a small batch roastery in Metro Phoenix that treats coffee like a true craft. Ethically sourced beans, thoughtful roasting, and incredible flavor in every batch. I recently made espresso with their Colombian beans, and it was honestly the best cup of coffee I've made at home. What really sets them apart is their mission. They study every bean to highlight its best natural qualities and roast for cafes, offices, events, and everyday coffee lovers. Their philosophy, do good, get good in, give good out, shows up in everything they do. Fair trade sourcing, supporting small farms, organic practices, and eco-friendly compostable products. Full field to fork traceability. They're serious about quality and serious about leaving a good footprint. If you want to taste it for yourself, head to alchemyroaster.com and use the promo code Timeline today for 10% off your order. Support them, support us. alchemyroaster.com, promo code Timeline. You'll taste the difference. Can I throw out one of my stats here to add to this net rating conversation or on-off stat conversation? We did one of these after 10 games, as I mentioned earlier. And we had like 10 minutes on how bad Oso Ighodaro was.
Yeah, that was 10 games ago.
It's 10 games ago. There's been 12 games since then. In those the last 10 games, which I really tried to focus in on, net rating, so how much they're outscoring opponents per 100 possessions with Oso Ighodaro on the floor, plus 21, the best on the Suns. So it flipped. They were really bad with him on the floor. He was really bad for the first 10 games of the season. People got very frustrated with him. People were saying that he shouldn't be playing at all. I tried to plead the case to be a little patient with him because he was a second-round pick, and I just want him to be good. And it flipped. They are at their best with Oso Ighodaro on the floor now. And really, I think that OKC game showed why it's important to make sure that Oso Ighodaro could play. Because you need him against teams like that. Teams that can go small and really challenge you in that small way. And he has put together a role for himself. This is credit to Jordan Ottu, but credit to Oso Ighodaro, that makes sense on this team. And it's really kind of a small role, but like it's kind of a center role, as we talked about. He's just asked to do the center things and occasionally make a nice pass every once in a while. But not too much pressure, not too much dribbling, not too much driving, but occasionally doing those things that makes him good and just really being solid on defense.
Yeah, and just the occasional initiation, that's on the coaching staff for having the faith in him to be able to take pressure off of the other lead initiators on this team so that, he can continue to bring the ball up the floor and stuff. He's been good. I think the thing about Oso, I don't want to push back on what you're saying because he's certainly been good. I have these numbers too from Cleaning the Glass as well. Mark Williams is a plus 7.3 on the floor. Oso, this is on the season, not just in the past 10 games. So on the season, Mark Williams plus 7.3. Oso plus 2.6. So that's huge for him to be positive after the way the first 10 games went. He's now positive because of how well the last 10 games have gone.
That's the context, right? Exactly. Yeah.
The odd man out is Nick Richards, who is minus 18.7 and by far the worst. Other than the worst guy of anyone who's played real minutes. Nigel Hayes-Davis has played 97 minutes. He's even worse. But never mind that. Nick Richards is minus 19 per Cleaning the Glass, which is really, really tough. And why I continue to just hope that Kaman Malawach has some really good stat lines at the G League. He had one good stat line, or one better stat line for the Valley Suns the other night. There was that one game that everyone was making a big deal about of he had like 5 turnovers and 5 fouls, and then Malawach played another game and he had a solid game of like 15 and 15 or something. And so baby steps with him. I just need someone other than Nick Richards playing 10 minutes a night. But back to the Oso point, he has been much better.
Much better, and like they played Denver a few games ago. They lost, but like I looked at that Valanciunas matchup and I was like, this is the type of thing where Oso's going to suck because he's huge. And no, it kind of flipped. It was kind of like an advantage in that game for the Suns as far as the centers go. They were kind of forcing it to Valanciunas, pushing him out and not biting on pump fakes, and they did a good job against him. And I actually thought Oso was a plus. But really, the OKC game, I think, I know they lost, but they were at their best by far when Oso was on the floor. And this is with Mark Williams, who's been playing well lately. But they were by far at their best in that game. Now, of course, there was one game in the last 10 games where Oso Ighodaro was plus 50-something.
Yeah, what game was that? The Pacers or something?
I think it was Portland Trailblazers.
Okay.
And that's the third highest plus-minus for a single player in the history of the NBA. So that is factored into these stats. But it is to say that lately, they're good with him on the floor. And if that continues, that's going to be really beneficial for the Suns. I'm not sure if it's just everything changes without Devin Booker. Everything changes. So we're going to see how that type of thing is going to change overall when the rotations are going to change.
Yeah, Booker and Oso in particular have this symbiotic relationship, right? It's like the entire reason for Oso's existence as an NBA player is to juice Booker's numbers. That's what he's capable of doing. And not even necessarily juice all of Booker's numbers, because a lot of times it's like he's just a release valve for Booker to pass to so that Oso can then get the assist, and it's just a hockey assist for Booker. So that's not even really juicing his numbers. But we have seen it borne out that Booker's efficiency just tends to be better with a guy like Oso on the floor, one of these skilled bigs who can move the ball side to side. Is that going to look the same with him just playing constantly with Colin Gillespie and Grayson Allen
They're
instead?
good together too. Colin and
they
Oso.
are.
Yeah.
They definitely have chemistry. It's just not a lot of gravity on the floor, I guess. Like, again, it goes back to the thing of Colin Gillespie, who I'm going to talk about next. I'll just say right now, my next stat's Colin Gillespie.
Okay, I got some good ones too.
We got to talk about Colin Gillespie for sure here.
Let's do it. Yeah.
But Colin Gillespie's never seen... I mean, when was the last time Colin Gillespie saw a double team? In the G League? Must have been like G League. He's never seen a double team in the NBA. Oso is still not getting guarded at the rim.
Are you
Make a free throw. Make a free throw, please.
Are you
Try
surprised?
a granny shot. Try anything. He's at 38% from the free throw line. I know we're trying to be nice because his net rating numbers are literally good, and so I don't want this to all take away from the overall point that Oso has been good. Please make a free throw. Your NBA career depends on it. Please go ahead. Say what you were gonna say.
Are you surprised teams haven't just started to hack him?
They
like
should.
Away from the ball.
They should. At this point, I would. Because if your options are, they've got, like, take Booker
Nick
out of the
Richards would be
equation.
the other one, right? Yeah.
Nick Richards can make his free throws.
Yeah, but they take Oso out to put Nick Richards in. That's an advantage for the other team.
100%. And take Booker out of the equation for a second. If you're playing against a Suns lineup that has Colin Gillespie's a pull-up threat, Grayson Allen's a pull-up threat, Dillon Brooks is a pull-up threat, any of these guys are going to shoot 35% from three on an average night. That I can take that, or I can bog the game down and send a sub 50% free throw shooter to the line. At a certain point, the math just makes sense to do hack and Oso. And so I'm curious who's going to be the first team to try it. Mm-hmm. It's not something they would do constantly. It's just something that they would do if the Suns are getting momentum in like a third quarter. We're going to see it at some point if
I'm
you
going to
keep
say
shooting
Kerr.
like this.
Golden State, that'll be the team. I could see Mark Dagnall doing it too, though. Colin Gillespie, let's talk about him.
Do you want to go first or should I go first?
I wouldn't mind going first. I'm excited about the one I have.
Mine kind of relates to history.
Okay,
So,
let me go
do you
first.
like-
Because we
You go
promised,
first.
we
Okay.
teased it. We promised a Colin Gillespie conversation on the podcast on our Patreon one about his ceiling, and I think we need to have a short conversation about that after we go through these stats. But let's do this. Colin Gillespie is the best catch and shoot 3-point shooter in the NBA. 51.9% on catch and shoot threes. This is a stat that I am not giving you now. This is a stat that's been bandied about on the broadcast, so people are aware of this stat. But like 52% on catch and shoot threes is insane. But the first 12 games of the season, the first 10 games or so, we talked about this on our last stats episode. He was shooting 18% on pull-up threes. 18% on pull-up threes. We had a conversation about it, you and I, where we said Colin Gillespie needs to shoot pull-up threes even if they're not going in. He needs to continue to take that shot. That shot is going to be important for this team. That shot is going to be important for his development. In the last 10 games, Colin Gillespie has shot 20 for 40 on pull-up threes. So he's the best catch and shoot 3-point shooter in the NBA. And the pull-up threes are starting to go in, and he shot 50% on those pull-up threes in the last 10 games. Is that not insane?
Last game he had, what was it, 8 threes?
Yeah, I think
against
something
the
like
Lakers.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's this was something I posted about on Twitter yesterday, just the fact he keeps setting new career highs. First it was 20 points a couple weeks ago. Then he had 21 last week against Sacramento, new career high. 24 against OKC, new career high. 28 against the Lakers. And just looked like Steph Curry. I mean, I'm just not going to mince words. The player I saw against the Lakers actually looked like Steph Curry at times.
They have this
what
new,
he's doing.
They have this new like pitch play to him now, where he's coming around a sort of like an Iverson cut style screen, but at the top, a Steph Curry screen. Like if he's coming around a screen, they pitch the ball to him behind the screen, and he takes a single dribble. The screener's still in place, the screener that just screened for him. He takes a single dribble back towards the other side and shoots that three. Mm-hmm. So it's a catch, single dribble into a three.
Yep.
And that one play, I think, has juiced his pull-up numbers dramatically because he's probably made 4 or 5 of those in the last few games. I want to find and clip that in one of the next games that we're watching here so that I can explain what I'm seeing here. But, like, I just don't really get what we're seeing with him. Like, I really thought Ty Jerome, and now I'm like Norm Powell mixed with Steve Nash. Like, I don't even know. Because
I'm seeing
been
Steph
off
Curry mixed with Reggie Miller mixed with no. I mean, it's clear that like Colin, I think, has always been a pretty solid shooter. You know, at the G League level, back when he was with Denver, like I don't think he was ever a bad shooter. but he just locked himself in the gym and said, "I'm that one dribble pull up that you're talking about, one dribble pull up going right or left."
Often left for some reason.
He must have spent his whole summer doing that, because if those pull up numbers, and he's not going to shoot 50% on pull up threes all season. If he does, then really he is going to price out the Suns of being able to keep him. It probably will stabilize somewhere around him being an average pull up shooter. If he's an average pull up shooter and one of the best catch and shoot guys in the league, it's just a really, really dangerous weapon going forward, and it does present an interesting conversation about what his ceiling is.
That's the conversation I want to have. This is what we said on our Patreon podcast. At some point, we have to have a conversation about his ceiling. Let me
talk about history first.
Yeah, do the stat.
That'll bring us into his ceiling. So Colin Gillespie, I just said, has been eclipsing his own career high several times. He's up to 5 games now with 20-plus points as a Sun. 5 games. I went ahead and looked up, and this is where I get to put you to the test, which is so fun. Mm-hmm. I went ahead. I looked up every single Sun in history who's 6'1", listed as, according to Basketball Reference at least, listed as 6'1" or shorter.
Okay.
And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 Suns in history listed as 6'1" or shorter, with at least 10. I just chose that because it was a nice flat number. At least 10 games of 20 points or more. Mm-hmm. I also chose that because Gillespie's up to 5. Mm-hmm. The way he's playing, he'll be at 10 in no time.
In 5 games, yeah.
Maybe in five games if Booker misses a bunch of time. And it's going to be interesting to me to see how high up this list he's able to climb just by the end of this season, because who knows, a bunch of stuff could happen here. But of the 7, do you have any guesses of who would be on that list in Suns history? Only guys 6'1" or shorter, 20-plus point games.
Isaiah Thomas.
Isaiah Thomas is number 6 on the list. He had 16 games of 20 points. He's 5'9", of course, the shortest guy on this list. But what's holding him back is he only played on the Suns for half a season because that was a complete disaster of an acquisition.
Right.
And so I'm sure he would be much higher on this list were not for the fact that Ryan McDonough is an idiot.
Is Eric Bledsoe under 6'1"?
Very good. Eric Bledsoe is number 2 on this list with 98 games of 20-plus points. There's one guy on this list who's like just far and ahead above everyone else.
And is it someone I should know?
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Is it Kevin Johnson? Does he count?
Yes. Yes. Kevin Johnson was 6'1".
Okay, I thought he'd at least be 6'2". Okay, so Kevin Johnson
no.
for sure.
I mean, Kevin Johnson's hops, given that he was 6'1", truly insane. Same with Bledsoe early in his career. The fact that those guys could even dunk is crazy. Kevin Johnson is at 298 games.
Okay.
Colin Gillespie's probably not catching Kevin Johnson unless he finishes his career here and just becomes a superstar player.
So I got 3 of the 6.
You've got 3 of the 7. And I will say there's only one other guy here who I would actually expect you to for sure be able to name. The other 3,
is it Tyler Ulis?
It's not Tyler Ulis.
Okay,
way more guys 6'1" or below. There's one way more obvious than Tyler Ulis.
Chris Paul.
It's Chris Paul. Chris Paul is number 4 on the list with 44 games.
That leaves
3 guys.
3 guys.
So we've got Kevin Johnson has 300 of these games. Eric Bledsoe has 100 of these games. Gail Goodrich is at number 3 with 97 games. He only played those basically 2, the inaugural Suns season and then the season right after that. And I don't think Gail Goodrich for his time was thought of as like a small guard, but because it was the 60s, the average height of the NBA was like 6'4". Now the average height is like 6'8". So it was just a different era. Chris Paul's at number 4 with 44 games. Number 5, a guy who scored 50 points once as a Phoenix Sun, and who I had no idea that this guy was 6'1", actually, because I think he's more of a shooting guard. Tony Delk.
Oh, interesting.
18 such games.
Okay. Yeah, he looks taller.
Isaiah Thomas, 16 games. He's number 6. And then number 7, the last guy in double figures in this stat is Elliot Perry, backup point guard basically backup point guard to Kevin Johnson. Did start some games in the 90s for those teams as well, but he was also listed as 6'1". Colin Gillespie could get up on this list. Like, Tony Delk has 18 of these games, Isaiah Thomas 16, Elliot Perry 12. By the end of this season, Colin Gillespie could surpass all of those guys if he has a true 6th man of the year style campaign. And that would put him in the top 5 in this list behind only Chris Paul at that point. Goodrich, Bledsoe, and Kevin Johnson. And from there, the sky's the limit. Who knows? But I wanted to bring this up, one, because it's just fascinating to me to see small players succeed in the NBA, and then to talk about like what separates them, because all of these guys are a little bit different. Kevin Johnson, unmatched athlete in a way that Colin Gillespie just can't be. Eric Bledsoe too, for that matter. Like young Eric Bledsoe, and even the Eric Bledsoe, the version of Eric Bledsoe that was on the Suns, just a different type of athlete that Colin Gillespie can't be. Chris Paul, supercomputer brain that I think Colin Gillespie is actually a really good playmaker. He's not Chris Paul, and he'll never be Chris Paul, right? So what can Gillespie do at his size, because he's the same size as all of these guys, to separate himself and take the next leap at the NBA level? And what do you think?
It's really difficult to say, because like obviously the main thing, and it's so boring to say this, consistency. He has to do what he's doing right now for an entire season. If he can continue doing what he's doing right now for an entire season, then I think we can make some sort of projection about what he can be. But like I already feel like with him, I'm like, what am I watching? How is it possible that there was a player this good that just wasn't on a team, that just wasn't getting minutes anywhere in the NBA? So much of what he's done so far has been so surprising that it's like, I don't know, like if he can be this good for an entire season, first of all, can the Suns afford him? And if they can, could they lock in a really great player on a pretty great contract because of, the lack of evidence that we have that he can be this good, and the fact that he's smaller, that could they get a player like that on a contract that's pretty good, the way that Steph Curry was on a contract like that, Jalen Brunson was on a contract like that at one point because people were worried about these guys.
Right. And just to remind people again, the max the Suns can offer Colin Gillespie this summer with early bird rights is like $12 million-ish, give or take a little bit. Someone needs to run the numbers. Up until this point, we've been maintaining that, like, hey, it's a really hard free agent market for anyone right now, let alone 6'1" point guards. So that shouldn't be an issue, right? If he's Ty Jerome for the rest of this season, $12 million to me is no sweat. Like, I don't think he's going to get more than that on the open market. Because Ty Jerome himself had a really good season last year, and he's only making $9 million. If Gillespie is averaging 24 points and 6 assists for the rest of the season, though, because anything is on the table at this point, it becomes another discussion. He might get an offer of more than $12 million at that point. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. The space creation with him just shouldn't be there, is the thing to me, right? His dribble is good, but it's not like you can see the way that he's creating space kind of in the mid-range, but the mid-range shot for him hasn't been that consistent. He does get blocked a good amount at the rim, and it just feels like his handle is tight, but it could be tighter. He really is relying on shooting right now, and particularly, as you pointed out, pull-up shooting, to be able to kind of create that space for himself. And that's just something that's going to have a little bit of a give and take, a come and go. So I don't know. I want to say that his ceiling can be really high, but I don't even know what really high means yet.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about defense?
His defense or the Suns' defense?
The Suns' defense.
Yeah, let's talk about the Suns' defense. Colin Gillespie's defense not bad either.
We'll talk more about Colin Gillespie as the season. He's got a really interesting opportunity with Devin Booker being out. The Suns are number 1 in steals per game. Number 1 in steals per game so far. Did you realize that they were there?
Yes.
Okay, number 1 in steals per game. Do you know how many it is?
50.
10.9 per game. I'm talking per game.
Close. Feels like 50.
It feels like a lot, especially against certain teams. The last time a team averaged more than 10.9 steals per game. Or I'm sorry, yeah, more than 10.9 steals per game. For an entire season. Do you want to guess? You want
last year's Thunder?
It wasn't last year's Thunder. No. It was
I don't know who.
The 1997-1998 Boston Celtics.
That's really interesting because didn't the Celtics suck in the 90s?
Yes, could you
weren't
name
the
a single
90s
player on that team?
Weren't the 90s like the lost decade for the Celtics? I mean, that was before my time following the NBA. A single player, was that pre-Antoine Walker?
Antoine Walker was on the team. He was on the team.
Antoine Walker was on the team. Okay.
He averaged 40 minutes a game on that team, basically.
Yeah,
that was
and
back
probably
when they played him.
he probably shot like 38% from the field, and they were like, "This is our superstar."
They got a lot of steals, though. They got a lot of steals that team.
Who else was on that team?
Let me bring it up because I knew you were going to ask that, so I have a link directly to their basketball reference in my notes here, and I'll tell you right now. Let's go by minutes per game.
That was prime Bill Simmons, right? He was in the prime of his career.
Yeah, probably.
In the 90s.
Antoine Walker, like I said, averaged 39.9 minutes per game. Ron Mercer, Walter McCarty, Chauncey Billups, Kenny Anderson, Bruce Bowen. There's a reason right there. Dana Barros, Travis Knight, D. Brown. Nobody else, I think. Greg Minor. There's a player that people would know. Dante Jones. Didn't play much, though. Yeah. So those are the main rotation guys on the team right there.
Yeah, there are some dogs on that team, though, of guys I
Chauncey
recognize
Billups,
who made names
Bruce
for themselves
Bowen.
in the 2000s. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it is to say that Suns defense has been really good. They're really getting into passing lanes. They're really forcing teams into bad passes. I thought the Lakers game was really a really good example of that. But even the OKC game, they were forcing a lot of turnovers against OKC. In fact, the Denver Nuggets started with 3 or 4 turnovers against the Suns. They find ways to force turnovers against these teams over and over and over again. There are guys that are really good at it. Colin Gillespie's really good at it. Jordan Goodwin's really good at it. Ryan Dunn is really good at it. By the way, happy Ryan Dunn's back. We didn't mention that yet. It was nice to see him play. I hope his wrist is okay because the 2 threes he took did not look great. But it is to say, not only are the Suns averaging the most steals in the NBA, they're doing something like relatively historic as far as the amount of steals they're averaging. Now, pace is up. Like stats like this could go up as pace goes up, right? We're talking about a per game stat, which is very pace related. But they're doing something amazing, something that OKC didn't even do last year with their historic defense.
Pace was super high in the 80s, too. Were there a ton of teams like this averaging 11, 12 steals a game in the 80s, I wonder?
There was more of that in the 80s, yes. Mm-hmm. That's why you go back to the 90s. But like in the 2000s, it's never happened. This is the 10.9 steals is a lot. In fact, I'll say, just to add some historic context, the team with the most steals ever per game was the Suns in 1977-1978, and it was 12.9 steals per game. Just as to add some historical context, the most ever in a game that was very sloppy in the 70s and 80s, of course, was only 2 more than that per game. So it's like it's just a lot for this modern NBA, and they're finding ways to do it relatively consistent. I don't think they'll. And you know what's crazy about it too? Maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe they'll just be one of the best teams ever for forcing steals. In the modern NBA.
Right. So many of it is like being able to anticipate things like cross-court passes and bad passes in general, but there's also all of the on-ball steals, the dribble steals. And you would think that would just become, those would become harder to come by as there's more space, like every single team going 5 out and just being obsessed with this concept of space. You would think, okay, now it's more difficult to be able to bring doubles over, bring 2 to the ball and force a turnover and create a steal that way. And yet, with all the space on the floor, here the Suns are, and they still are creating steals. And it's guys 1 through 15 on the roster too. Jamari Bouye comes in, and I was telling you the other night, we haven't done our Hustle Player of the Week yet, but we'll see after a couple more games. Jamari Bouye, he wants to get on the board, Mike. This isn't a Patreon episode, but Jamari Bouye wants to get on the Hustle Player board. He wants a point next week. He's come in, and he has 4 steals already in like 70 minutes of game time.
4 steals, and he's making shots too. He's making shots. He's done good. They did a good job with that,
and he's gonna have to continue to play.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna get more minutes now, probably. Yeah, he's the backup point guard now because Colin Gillespie has to start, so he's the backup point guard now.
I'm gonna swing us back to offense if that's okay, because all of my stats are offense related. That's the thing about, we don't have a flow on these episodes. It just kind of is whatever we happen to look up. So let's talk about Dillon Brooks. You have a Dillon Brooks one, right?
I do. I'm excited about it too. Yeah.
What's your Dillon Brooks one?
Go ahead. I'll tell you if it overlaps.
Mid-range shooting?
Sort of, yeah. Not quite, though, but yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the best mid-range shooters in the NBA at the moment. Here are all of the top mid-range shooters in the NBA with a minimum of 50 attempts. 50 attempts in the NBA these days, couple guys who are taking at least a couple mid-range shots a game. There's only a couple dozen of those, right? This is not this is not your Antoine Walker's NBA, where Antoine Walker probably took 10 mid-range shots a game. Actually, Antoine Walker took a lot of threes for the 90s, but I digress. The top mid-range shooters in the NBA right now: Donovan Mitchell, 57%. Number 2, Dillon Brooks, 54% on mid-range shots this year. He's the second best high-volume mid-range shooter in the entire league. Jaylen Brown is third at 52. Jamal Murray is fourth at 51. Those are the only guys above 50. Kevin Durant is at 47%. Devin Booker is at 46%. Dillon Brooks is at 54%. And what gets me about this, too, is this is where I don't have stats anymore, and you're just going to have to trust my eyes or my memory, but half of those are turnarounds with a hand in his face. You want
to talk about that? That's related to my stat.
He's taking these ridiculous shots and is this at all sustainable? I have no idea. I would think it's not.
It's not.
Honestly, I would think it's not.
It's not.
I would think it's not. But what Dillon Brooks is doing as a mid-range shooter is truly special right now. I can't believe my eyes when I watch him play, as he truly turns into, Andrew Wiggins is also Canadian. Mm-hmm. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. Mm-hmm. Andrew Wiggins has the Maple Jordan nickname that I just feel like he never earned. Dillon Brooks is playing like Maple Jordan right now. That should be his nickname.
Yeah, the defense is there too. Let me tell you this, though. Dillon Brooks posts up 1.9 times per game, essentially 2 times per game. Of all the players in the NBA who posts up as much as he does, or more, he's number 1 in points per possession by a lot. By a lot, at 1.44 points per possession. Let me tell you this just to put a pin in that. He shoots 78.9% when shooting out of a post-up. That's insane. That's like Shaq numbers.
That's like a Jokic or Zubac's hook shot number, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's better. Because Jokic is 1.36 points per possession on post-ups. He's better than DeMar DeRozan, who's the second best. He's better than Jokic. He's better than Zion or Luka or Paolo Banchero or Kawhi Leonard or Giannis. Any of these guys, he's the best post-up player essentially in the NBA on unlimited post-ups. But he's shooting mid-range fadeaways from the post and shooting almost 80% on those. That's why I don't think it's sustainable,
I think the crazy thing, too, is it's they have him pick his spots in the post, obviously. He doesn't just have the green light at will. But it's not okay, Dillon Brooks, we're going to work an off-ball screen specifically so that Dillon Brooks gets a mismatch onto a 6'2" guy, and then he's going to go to work in the post. Maybe that's happened a few times, but oftentimes it just feels like he's going at anyone, and he just makes the shot. It's ridiculous. It's honestly ridiculous what he's doing. He's never had an efficient season of shooting like this. Now, of course, I wish he was shooting better than 32% from deep. Maybe that'll even out at some point.
It's just absurd how good he's been. And in so many ways, we talked about Dillon Brooks before the season, and we talked about how we're really going to have to find ways to limit his I got this mentality, and we can't. We need it now more than ever. They just need him to be that guy. He's not going to be able to do this, especially when the defense really starts honing in on him, because he can't pass. And I do think that teams are eventually, if he keeps doing this, he's averaging over 20 points per game, teams are going to throw 2-3 guys at him and force him into turnovers, and that's going to happen eventually.
That'll be interesting. So it's going to be interesting to see what the starting lineup is going forward without Book. If Grayson is back in the lineup, I think if they start Brooks alongside Grayson, Royce, and Gillespie, then teams are going to just, those are shooters. Those are 3 shooters. Plus, of course, a rim runner and Mark Williams. So at that point, I think teams would just say, okay, Dylan, go get 30. We don't care. We'd rather do that than W and open up a shooter. But if Ryan Dunn or Jordan Goodwin or anyone else is on the floor, then they're going to start to throw the double at him and say, okay, we don't think you've seen this before. And how he's going to be able to react to that will be interesting. I mean, just being honest, they're probably going to turn the ball over more. And they're really going to have to win games with their defense.
Yeah.
But it is remarkable what Dylan Brooks is doing offensively. That's true.
Mm-hmm. It's been incredible. And, we'll see how it goes when Devin Booker's out. Do you have any more?
I only have one stat left, and this is a minor one anyway, but just wanted to underscore that the team is fun through the use of dunks.
Oh, okay.
We've talked about boom rooms with K-Ray last week. Mm-hmm. Shout out to K-Ray again for coming on. But just in terms of pure dunks, do you know who led the Suns in dunks last year? If you had to guess.
That's interesting. Nick Richards?
Nick Richards is at 55. He was in second place. He was definitely first in dunks per game, but he was a midseason acquisition.
Right.
So number 1 was the guy who I guess you would call the main backup center for the Suns last year, Mason Plumlee, at 62 dunks. He had
Makes
62.
sense. It's all he can do, so yeah.
And even then, though, we were definitely expecting Mason to be able to come in, and I thought the version of Mason Plumlee still existed that could get 100 dunks. And he finished with 62 in 70-plus games. I say all this to say that Mark Williams, knock on wood, furiously, but through 20 games of the season, where, of course, he's not even playing back-to-backs, he's already at 42. And he is going to just blow past Mason Plumlee. By the time we do the 30 games in stat episode, as long as Mark Williams is playing those games, he should pass him, which is really crazy.
He's been
an honest vertical spacer every night on the floor that they have. And the team as a whole, obviously, is just going to finish with way more dunks this year, too.
He was so good against the Lakers. It's really fascinating to watch him after the overall, and not just DeAndre Ayton, but because he played against him, so obviously there's going to be some comparisons that are drawn there. But just the overall center position that the Suns have had for the last few years, whether it be Drew Eubanks or Mason Plumlee, Nurkic, Nick Richards as a starter, or DeAndre Ayton, Mark Williams in particular is just out there working hard and not begging for the ball in any way. They often say you should reward centers.
Oh, yeah, Nurkic. Yeah, absolutely, man. Nurkic was totally a beggar.
Yes, totally. And DeAndre and everyone had said you have to feed him in order to keep him engaged. And it doesn't appear you have to do any of that for Mark Williams. They should look for him more, especially when he's running down the court, but not just because you want him to be engaged, but also because that's often the best shot. You're just giving him the ball because the big man is running towards the basket at full speed.
Right, exactly. And Mark is, you could just tell Mark Williams is a smart basketball player because he understands that he's going to get the ball and he's going to get rewarded if he runs hard in transition. I mean, he beat DA down the floor a few times last night and was rewarded for it. But he, that doesn't mean that if they're in a half-court possession and the game slows down, maybe he's still trying to work a seal off and get a touchdown low. But he knows that the bulk of his offense where he can do his damage on this team is in transition when his motor is at its highest, when he's working his hardest. And just that we've seen him, maybe he doesn't play 35 minutes a game, but he's really, really comfortable now in that 25 to 30 minute zone, as long as he's not playing those back-to-backs, and maybe that's something they worked out with the team before the season. He seems to be in a really good place right now.
Yeah.
And you can just count on Mark Williams when he's in the game that you're getting 100% of who he is and not 80% of who he is in hopes of preserving his body or whatever. That's exactly what I was hoping for before the season started.
Very happy he's on the Suns. Just a fun player to root for. One of Colin Gillespie's threes in the Lakers game in transition, Gillespie caught, I think it was a Royce pass at the left wing and switched a three in transition. And the reason he was open is because Mark Williams was sprinting towards the rim and two guys just came with him to the rim, and that left Colin Gillespie wide open at the rim. And like in some ways you're like, you got to reward the man, but also he needs to run so that those threes are open too. Like it's basketball. Everything's connected. And just as you said, Mark Williams is a smart guy, and I'm sure he knew that too. And like it's tough in those cases too. Big men have gravity too. We've talked about it before. It's not just a Steph Curry stat, but nothing goes down in the box score for what Mark Williams did on that play. In fact, it's just him. It's just sweat. Like that's what led to that 3 for Colin Gillespie. But the people who know. The coaching staff knows. Colin Gillespie knows. Mark Williams knows. And, hopefully people watching and listening to this podcast will know that that's why he does that. But he's really smart. He's really high effort, really high energy. And I hope they do reward him more when it's the best shot as much as possible. But the fact that we don't have to give him 5 or 6 post-ups a game just to make sure that he's engaged in the rest of the game, it's really helpful, and I hope he continues to stay healthy.
Can I just say I'm looking at Mark Williams' Twitter page right now. A lot of NBA players aren't super active on Twitter these days. Mark Williams, his 3 most recent tweets. He's only tweeted 3 times this season, or he's only even retweeted 3 times this season. He's got the Phoenix Suns official tweet from Media Day, ready for year 4, cactus emoji. That's from the Suns, and then he retweeted it. Just some pictures of him. Coming up after that is retweeting Steven over at PHNX, doing a film breakdown of one of his games where he had 20 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 stocks. And Steven saying, let's look at his 2-way impact. And Mark Williams, I just think that's really funny that he saw that and retweeted that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So just supporting Steven, who we like a lot. And then the most recent one, him posting the meme that just says, thank you for saving my life. I'm literally Colin Gillespie. So he's an awesome culture guy. I just thought of that because you mentioned, the Colin Gillespie play. It's like, here he is. He's out supporting his guys. He's supporting local media as well in his engagements here. He's awesome to have.
He's great.
Awesome to have around.
Very happy. My last one. I mentioned it on a previous podcast, but I wanted to bring it up again. Jordan Goodwin, who has played in 18 of the Suns' 22 games, has the most steals in the NBA in the fourth quarter this season. The most, 15 total so far this season. And he's just averaging the most per game, he just has the most steals in the fourth quarter in the NBA. We brought up, I brought this up with you, something I heard about on a podcast of the concept of a clutch defender, a player who makes defensive plays in the clutch. Often you think of clutch as guys who make shots in the fourth quarter, and it was a stat that was brought up by someone to talk about Dyson Daniels and his impact and how he often gets steals in some of the most important parts of the game. Jordan Goodwin has some of that. He just has some of that. He's really high effort, really high energy. You talk about culture guys with Mark Williams. Jordan Goodwin is one of those guys. He has the ability to make plays. He's also 8th in the NBA in steal percentage so far this season for guys who play actual minutes. And, Jordan Goodwin has just been really good this season. His defense has been excellent. His shooting is much better than, I expected it to be after his last stint with the Suns. And he's about to get more minutes again. He started some games recently, 2 games. And it's about to get more minutes again with Devin Booker being out.
He's up to 20 minutes a game on the season now.
He's earned every one.
By necessity, but we're getting a lot of Jordan Goodwin. He's playing a real role.
And he's just been great this season. And I hope that stat is something he can maintain because it's helpful to have guys that make an impact in the fourth quarter like that defensively. And this team has done a lot of that with, a bunch of guys across the board. And I don't think anyone really exemplifies what this team is trying to do defensively better than Jordan Goodwin. He's right there with Dylan Brooks and Colin Gillespie and all those guys who just put that effort in constantly. And by the way, culture guy just seems like a good guy to be around. Like he seems like a guy that gets other guys excited and makes it fun to be his teammate.
Maybe it's just because they're winning games, but is there anyone on this roster who doesn't seem fun? Like compared to last year where it felt like everyone was miserable all the time. That's all of these guys just seem fun.
Not really. No, you're right.
It's a really good place.
Yeah.
Really good place for us to be.
Well, good stuff. Jordan Goodwin's been awesome.
We need Jordan Goodwin on the podcast next because he'll score a career high right after.
he'll score 5 of them, apparently.
He'll get a 30-piece.
You got anything else you wanted to cover before we go?
Colin Gillespie 30-piece coming against the Rockets on Friday.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
How are you going to feel if the Suns win that one?
How am I going to feel?
If the healthy Rockets lose to the Devin Booker and Jalen Greenless Phoenix Suns.
It's hard because I don't want to get off too many takes too early in the season because the Rockets are going to be a team we see a bunch. They're also a potential first round. Like, that could be a team we see in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It could. So I don't know. I would feel really, really good. I'm not sure exactly how reckless I'm going to be online yet. I'm not going to promise anything. But yeah, it's a quiet week for the Suns in that they don't play until Friday. So I hope everyone has a great week. When are we recording for Patreon?
I'm
After
not
that
sure.
game?
I got some stuff going on that I'm not sure.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Had to resist the temptation. I could have made a great joke, but I'm not going to blow up
You
your
can tell
spot.
me
Because
Yeah.
I know what's going on in Mike's life right now. I could have made a great
it's exciting
joke.
stuff,
Anyway. So probably after the Rockets game sometime this weekend, people will get a Patreon episode from us.
Yeah. I'm excited to see the next few games, even though they are injured, and that says a lot about this team, honestly. Like, I'm not looking at those games going, no Devin Booker, no Jalen Green, I have to sit through this game. No, I'm going like, I want to see what Colin Gillespie, Dylan Brooks, and Jordan Goodwin, and Oso Ighodaro, Mark Williams do against these good teams. And if they lose, they lose. Like you can't get too mad at that. We're not measuring this season in wins and losses, but in success. There is a version of those games where they are successful even in a loss. But man, if they win, how fun would that be? Anyway, I'm excited. I want to give a shout out to everyone on our Patreon. Lots of people have joined recently, and I appreciate that. If you'd like to join, patreon.com/thetimeline. Just as Sam said, we'll record a Patreon podcast likely this weekend because we're doing a Hustle Player of the Week thing, and I don't want to do it after one game. We just recorded one. I want a few games in there to figure it out. Otherwise, I don't know. Jamari Bouye might be in that top 3 this week. But Patreon.
He's rigging the vote against Jamari Bouye. We have to stop him.
Patreon.com/thetimeline to hear those episodes. And yeah, check us out there. Join our Discord.
If you're in line to vote for Jamari Bouye, stay in line. They have to grant you the right to vote.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Happy December, everyone.
Back soon.